The United States of America. One country, 3 colors, 50 states. The people living in the United States have power. Power to vote down bills and laws and leaders to where they see fit for a free and prosperous country. What if I told you if throughout most of the 1700s, 50 states was 13 colonies, and these 13 colonies were linked to a country called Great Britain. Great Britain was a monarchy ruled by King George, which meant that the citizens linked to it did not really have much power to vote for anything. The colonists especially had less power because they lived further away, so they had to lay down and take it. The French and Indian War started this. It began in 1756, and it was Britain and the colonists fighting for land beyond the Appalachian Mountains, which was owned by France. France was fighting with their allies, the natives. Britain and the colonists came out victorious, but it was a very costly victory. And instead of taxing France, which Britain knew would most likely lead to more conflict, they decided to tax the colonists and go for the easy route. The colonists believed this was an act of tyranny and started to question Britain's rule, and this was the first act of the revolution. The change points from taxes consisted of both sides trying to gain something, whether it be gain permanent power or permanent separation. The biggest point of change was the actual separation from Britain. And I quote, "On this day in 1776 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Continental Congress adopts the Declaration of Independence, which declares independence from a new United States of America from Great Britain and its king." This was so important to the colonists because they knew that Britain was treating them unfairly and not treating them like typical British citizens. The point of change in the Revolutionary War teaches that you have to decide between 2 things. You can either keep things the same, knowing things could just get worse, or you could change, knowing things could possibly get better, but you aren't certain about it. I quote from Family Search Organization, "Most colonists continued to quietly accept British rule until the Tea Act in 1773. This gave the faltering East India Company a monopoly, which means that they could control the prices of tea being shipped into America, which taxes were taken off of it, so it looked like prices were getting better, but they were actually just raising the price of the actual tea. And the colonists saw this as an act of tyranny, and they decided to take action. They organized the Boston Tea Party, and they threw 45 tons of tea into the Boston harbor. And this shows that if you want something badly enough, you need to work for it. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace, said by George Washington. Blizzard to flurry, storm to drizzle, war for peace. There's conflict in my topic, lots of conflict. The word war is not thrown around lightly. The points leading to war is teaching the opponents that they are a force to be reckoned with, but whenever the other side would receive a punch, they would throw one right back. One can never truly hold peace unless they have loyalty and support from those they protect. And you will always have those who disagree with you, and your job as a leader is to listen to those individuals and make your case. But in this topic, that was not a true option. There were patriots who fought against Britain and loyalists who fought with Britain. Now I want you to think about this concept. You and your neighbors have been friends for years, and you talk about news, work, and your families, but now you're enemies. Because they are a loyalist and believe that we need Britain to prosper, but you are a patriot and believe that Britain should not belong in their lives anymore. Neighbor against neighbor, father against son, brother versus brother. Conflict theory is when one is looking for an outcome with pace and force. There were long, bloody battles in the Revolutionary War, but the colonists hoped that for every drop of blood that was spilled, a flower would grow in the name of the sacrifice that gave their life for freedom. The chances the colonists would win the war were close to 0, for Britain had the strongest army in the world, and the colonists had few men with few training, resources, and weaponry. Britain had a navy, the colonists did not. It was expected that Britain would win the war, but they did not. Things do not always go as planned. Most people believe that the colonists came out victorious because they had determination and passion. Britain was fighting to keep something, whereas the colonists were fighting for something that they believed was greater than themselves. War General George Washington said, "If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter." And this means that you must fight for what you believe in, or what you are accepting is a fate that you lay down and let them take your life. Modernization occurs when Britain was extracted from the equation, when America was one country. That was a new concept, and everyone had relied on Britain their entire lives to give them food, resources, almost everything they owned. And now they're on their own. They had to come up with a new government system, and the citizens were now fighting for a new government. And if you are stuck with the same technology, leaders, and people for too long, people will believe their opinions and creativity are swept under a rug. Everything turns black and white. So let's keep the color in the flag, the government, and our ever-changing United States of America. Thank you.